You wouldn't believe me if I told you this happened on my very first day. The day I was supposed to be walking in like the new guy in charge, right? But I swear, this is how it all went down, and it changed everything. Not just for me, but for an entire city. It starts with this cop, built like a vending machine, who thought he owned the sidewalk outside the precinct. And me, just a guy in a nice shirt, watching him. He punched me, right in the face, hard enough to taste blood, and then he literally peed his pants when he realized who I was. It was 7:45 a.m., 3 days after I flew in from New Orleans. The place was Emerald City, but the area I was focused on wasn't Emerald. It was granite and concrete. Specifically the 6th Precinct, or what the veterans called the Fortress. I'm Elijah Vance, and I was the newly appointed chief of police, brought in with a single mandate: radical surgical reform. Everyone knew this precinct was the cancer. They were notorious for their internal complaint rate, their us versus them culture, and their old guard mentality that treated the badge like a license to intimidate. My first official meeting was at 9 a.m., but I believe you can't understand a beast by reading its resume, you have to watch it feed. So I was standing across the street, not in my pristine chief's uniform, but in a bespoke charcoal suit, a clean white silk shirt, the kind of outfit that just screams successful civilian and, apparently, easy target to certain kinds of cops. I was just observing, mapping the territory, watching the flow of energy. I didn't carry a briefcase, no file, nothing to suggest business or authority. I was just a quiet, well-dressed black man standing still. Then they came out for coffee break. 3 of them. Leading the pack was Officer Rex Crowley, a guy in his late 30s whose face looked permanently tired of dealing with people who weren't him. 15 years on the job hadn't built his character. It had curdled it into a toxic blend of entitlement and aggression. He saw me, the expensive shirt, the quiet confidence, the mere presence, and I became a walking, talking violation of his worldview. He grunted to his partners. A younger guy named Finn who was trying too hard, and a rookie named Ben who looked like his conscience was already fighting him. "Look at this peacock, strutting around like he owns the block," Rex sneered, loud enough for me to hear. The words were laced with that low-grade professional venom you only get after years of unchecked power. They altered their path, like a pack of wolves casually deciding to check out a stray deer. The intentional loudness of their boots scraping the sidewalk. It was designed to intimidate, a small theater of power. I didn't flinch. I just held their gaze. No fear, no aggression, just pure unnerving assessment. See, this is the thing they don't teach you in the academy. The deepest insult to an arrogant bully is not defiance, it's indifference. For Rex, a black man in clothes that cost more than his monthly car payment, standing in front of his fortress and looking at him as an equal, was an intolerable offense. It wasn't just racism. It was class warfare mixed with the deep-seated belief that men like me should only be seen inside their station. Not observing it, Rex stopped a foot from me, his breath smelling of stale coffee and something else. Contempt. "You got a problem, pal? You staring at something you like?" he growled. I stayed silent. This wasn't weakness. It was a diagnostic tool, like a mechanic listening to a bad engine. I was gathering data, the toxic energy, the micro-expressions, the unsaid words. The reports were wrong. This wasn't just a few bad apples. This was the orchard. "I asked you a question, boy," he spat, deliberately using the most demeaning term he could find. Finn snickered, already pulling out his phone. I knew then and there my first day had officially begun, just not in a conference room. I was the test. I finally broke the silence, my voice perfectly calm, measured, devoid of the fear they were baiting me for. "I was just admiring the architecture," I said. "It's brutalist." That broke him. That unexpected intellectual response from a world he didn't belong to, it infuriated him more than any shout or curse. "Architecture?" he mimicked, high-pitched and mocking. "You hear that, boys? Mr. Fancy Pants is an architect critic. Maybe he's getting a preview of his new home." I just watched the glint in his eyes. I was memorizing their faces, their badge numbers, the specific tone of their mocking laughter. I was building a case, brick by painstaking brick. This wasn't a fight I had to win with my fists. I had to win it with their stupidity. Then came the shove. A hard, practiced move designed to make a man stumble. I absorbed the impact, my feet planted. I hadn't even rocked on my heels. That total lack of reaction was the ultimate insult to his physical dominance. He shoved again, harder. You think you're tough? You think that silk shirt makes you a man? For a fleeting second, an almost imperceptible smile touched my lips. I've stared down armed men in standoffs, negotiated with killers. This was pathetic, predictable street theater. Rex saw the smile, and that was it. That was the final, unforgivable insult. You think you're above the law? He roared, his voice cracking with pure, unadulterated rage. He drew back his right arm, throwing his full weight into a brutal hook aimed at my jaw. Crack. The sound was sickening. My head snapped to the side. The small crowd across the street gasped. Finn yelled a triumphant, "Ooh!" as if he was watching a boxing match. I staggered half a step, the kinetic energy burning through my body. I brought my hand up, my fingers touching my lip. A single perfect drop of crimson fell onto the pristine white silk of my shirt. It felt like a small, hot ember had landed on the fabric. The observation period was over. The procedure began. I turned my head back slowly, deliberately. The calm was still there, but it was now a predatory calm. A faint, chilling smile played on my lip, but my eyes, they were like chips of ice, burning with a cold fire that made even Rex take an involuntary step back. They thought they had assaulted a random civilian. They had no idea they had just punched their own judge, jury, and executioner directly in the face. That's what you get for resisting, Rex yelled, his voice too loud, too defensive. He was scrambling for justification. Now you're under arrest. On what charge, officer? I asked, my voice steady despite the swelling lip. Assaulting an officer, he blurted out, a desperate, ridiculous lie. You resisted and you took a swing at me. Rex and Finn slammed me against the brick wall. It was a rough, illegal search. They expected a weapon, drugs, anything to fit their narrative. What they found only deepened their hole. Finn pulled out my leather wallet, a platinum card, a driver's license from a major city, $1,000 in crisp hundreds. Then Rex grabbed the suit jacket draped over my arm. Bingo, he whispered, triumphantly ripping out a leather case containing a heavy, ornate police badge and ID. Playing cop, are we? Impersonating an officer, he crowed, dangling my old captain's badge from New Orleans like a trophy. Their hatred and arrogance were so blinding. They were incapable of processing the actual information, a decorated captain's ID from a major city. To them, I was just a pretender, someone they had the right to humiliate. Officer, I said, cutting through his gloating with surgical precision, I'm going to advise you to stop. You are currently in violation of Section 4, subsection B of the Patrol Guide concerning unlawful search and seizure. Furthermore, your accusation of impersonation is baseless, and your filing of a false report, a Class E felony, is being witnessed by at least a dozen citizens, and I presume the precinct's own security cameras. The torrent of precise, technical language hit them like a physical blow. Rex's smug expression faltered. He stammered, "What did you say?" I said, I repeated, each word chillingly clear, that you are creating a multi-million-dollar civil liability for the city and a career-ending, if not prison-bound, trajectory for yourself. I would advise you to place my identification back in my jacket and wait for a supervising officer to arrive. Inside the precinct, Sergeant O'Malley, a 30-year veteran, had been watching on the security monitor with growing dread. He saw the punch, the illegal search, and Miller holding up the badge. He couldn't hear the words, but he saw my demeanor, the utter lack of panic, the way I spoke not as an inferior, but as someone in immense authority. His gut screamed, "This man is different. This man is dangerous. Professionally." Just then, he saw Captain Ava Rinaldi, the precinct commander, striding purposefully toward the front doors. It was 8:58 a.m. She was going out to greet the new chief of police. O'Malley's blood turned to ice as the pieces clicked into place. Oh, God. No, they didn't. Outside, Rex was struggling to regain control. "You can quote all the books you want, pal. You're still going to jail!" Then, Rinaldi's crisp, professional voice cut through the air. "Officer Crowley, what in God's name is going on out here?" Captain Rinaldi took in the scene. The crowd, the phones, the blood on the white shirt, the captain's badge dangling from Rex's fingers. Her welcoming smile vanished, replaced by a mask of cold fury. She had drilled her officers for weeks, preparing for my arrival. This wasn't just unprofessional, it was her worst nightmare. "Captain, we have a situation," Rex stammered, trying to project authority. This individual was loitering, became aggressive when questioned. "He assaulted me, and we believe he is impersonating an officer." Rinaldi's eyes scanned me. Bruised and bleeding, but clear, piercingly direct and authoritative. "Assaulted you?" she asked, her gaze fixed on Rex. "I see a man with a split lip." "I don't see a scratch on you," she turned to me. "Sir, I am Captain Rinaldi, the commanding officer. Can you please tell me your name and what happened here?" I pushed myself off the wall. The two officers were too stunned to stop me. I looked directly at Captain Rinaldi, ignoring the men who had assaulted me as if they were nothing more than furniture. "Captain Rinaldi," I said, my voice formal, resonant, and loaded with the weight of my position. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, though I admit the welcoming committee is a bit more hands-on than I expected." I paused, letting the silence hang heavy, world-altering. "I'm Elijah Vance, your new chief of police." A profound, absolute silence fell over the precinct steps. Rinaldi's face went through an agonizing sequence: confusion, disbelief, dawning horror. The man who held the fate of her career was standing before her, bleeding, brutalized by her own officers on her doorstep. As for Rex Crowley, the blood drained from his face so completely he looked like a corpse. The arrogant smirk, the entitlement, all of it evaporated, replaced by a raw, primal terror. He looked down at the hand he had used to punch me. It felt alien, a traitorous limb. The badge he was holding, the one he had mocked, suddenly felt like 1,000 pounds of lead. "Chief Vance," Rinaldi finally managed to stammer, her voice barely a whisper. "That's correct, Captain." I nodded. I turned my head slowly, deliberately, until my icy gaze landed on Rex. "Officer," I said, and the word was filled with a chilling, final authority. "You have my old badge and my identification. I suggest you look at it again. This time, try reading it. I was Captain Vance, Internal Affairs Division. Professional Standards Bureau." The badge and ID case slipped from Rex's nerveless fingers and hit the concrete. Clatter. It was the sound of 3 careers shattering. The quiet, observant victim disappeared. The chief of police emerged. "Captain Rinaldi," I barked, "secure this crime scene now. I want a perimeter. Call Internal Affairs. Tell them the chief is invoking a Code 1 investigation and to dispatch their top team here immediately. And get Sergeant O'Malley out here. He is a material witness." Rinaldi snapped into action. I then turned to the 3 trembling officers. "Place your hands on the wall. Interlock your fingers behind your head. Now." They scrambled to obey. "Captain," I continued, my voice dropping to a cold, lethal calm, "disarm these 3 individuals. Then you will personally cuff them." The humiliation was exquisite in its symmetry. The men who had illegally slammed me against that wall were now in the same position, being stripped of everything. Rinaldi, her face grim, started with Rex. She removed his pistol with a sharp, practiced motion. Rex, the alpha dog, stood trembling, offering no resistance. Officer Crowley, badge 627. Officer Finn, badge 709. Officer Carter, badge 82, I recited their numbers and names. "You are all under arrest. You are being charged with felony assault, conspiracy, filing a false report, and violation of civil rights under color of law. You have the right to remain silent. I strongly suggest you use it." As the cuffs clicked shut around Finn's and Carter's wrists, they were no longer cops. They were criminals, arrested on the steps of their own precinct by the very man they had tried to break. The peacock, it turned out, was an eagle, and he was about to cleanse the nest. By noon, the cell phone videos had gone viral under the hashtags Chief Vance and Justice on the Steps. News helicopters circled the precinct. 6 months later, the trial was swift and brutal. Faced with overwhelming video evidence, their defense crumbled. Rex Crowley, defiant to the end, was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. Finn, who cooperated, received 5. Carter, the rookie, showing genuine remorse, received 3 years probation and a lifetime ban from law enforcement. The message was clear. The old way was dead. My audit of the 6th Precinct was as ruthless as I promised. Captain Rinaldi, who had proven her integrity in that moment of crisis, was promoted to Deputy Chief, my trusted right hand. The blood stain on my silk shirt had become a symbol, not of my victimization, but of the department's rebirth. One evening, months later, I stood in my new office looking out at Emerald City. The bruise on my jaw had long since faded, but the memory remained as a point of origin. I came here to fix a broken system. On my very first day, the system met me on the street and punched me in the face, showing me its ugliest self. By doing so, it handed me the perfect weapon to dismantle it. I didn't need to throw a punch or raise my voice in anger. I defeated them by letting them destroy themselves with their own hatred and arrogance. True strength isn't about who can inflict the most pain. It's about who can endure it with their integrity intact, and then use that experience to build something that lasts. So, I have to ask you, what do you believe is the single most powerful weapon against pure, unchecked arrogance? Is it swift punishment, or is it the quiet, unwavering commitment to excellence and reform? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if you've ever seen someone's quiet dignity completely disarm an aggressor, please subscribe and share this story. We need to talk more about how justice is truly served.